Alright, I'm gonna make a quick video here, or quick as I can. It's basically breaking down some of the components in the iCON Stakeout routine. From the main menu, you're going to go into Stakeout. You'll see my position kind of go in and out of fix because I'm doing this in the yard here and not in the best position for the base or the rover. But there's a lot of stuff in this Stakeout routine. Obviously, if you want to stake out a point or stake out a line, you can just click on it and do your stakeout. It'll tell you how far to get to it, so on and so forth. You guys have probably pretty much mastered this. I want to dive into a little bit more detail on the actual toolbox features here. So before we do that, I guess let's talk about the layers manager. So right now we got, this is just a little mock-up. This is actually a site up towards Knoxville, Tennessee, but I'm using it in my yard here just to kind of go through some of the principles. So we're going to go into our layers manager. If you're doing stakeout on a job and you don't want to see everything on here and it looks overwhelming or really busy, and if you're just staking out a particular item such as the building corners or really anything, you want to go down to your DXF file here, hit your drop down menu. So you got two things going on here. You got your layers over here on the right side. That's going to be all your lines and basically everything that you see on the screen here. You've also got your points for these. So what the iCON software does is any horizontal, vertical vertex basically on all these lines, it will generate a point at the correct 3D coordinate value. So we just turn them all on. So all of your line work, all your points, they're elevated with the correct 3D values, northing, easting elevation. But if you're just wanting to work on a specific routine, you can turn any of these points on. You can also turn all your layers off. If you just want to lay out the building, you can turn on your building, do your building. Or if you want to see all your line work, but you only want the building points, if you want to spot those out, you can turn your points on that way, so you don't have all your points for all your layers. Anyhow, for right now, I'm going to turn all this off and just leave my line work on. So let's look at some of the features on the toolbox. Get my hand out of the way there so y'all can see. So, stake out, you can stake a point, stake a line. You probably already know how to do that. We'll go into the toolbox here. So you got stake to elevation. So let's just say you got let's just dive into it. It's going to give you an elevation. So if you want to stake to an elevation, you can punch it in. This is just going to be useful for just staking elevation. It's not going to give you any alignment to any specific point or line. You can cycle through the info bar up here, look at your different stuff. So basically wherever you walk around the site here, it's going to give you a cutter feel to that design elevation of 1000. If you want to change that, you can hit toolbox, stake to elevation. It's going to pop up in here again. You can change it to say 995 or whatever you're trying to do. This ain't going to change until you hit this check box here. So we check it, it changes the values. Design's now 995. We'll go into this next one here. So we'll turn him off and we'll hit this red X. You'll see the screen go back regular now. So second option, reference elevation. This guy here, this is going to allow you to still stake out a point and get your horizontal values to get to that position, but it's also going to allow you to change the elevation of it on the fly. So for example, let's say we want to stake out this manhole, 1009.28. We'll go ahead and put her, maybe they adjusted it or you want to actually set out a different grade. This ain't something you'd probably do every day, but you can. So we'll change it to 1005 just for the heck of it. Now you'll notice your screen turns blue. That just kind of serves as a reminder to you that you're using a different elevation. But if we pick, it wants us to pick an actual, we'll check that first. It wants us to pick a point. So if we pick MH1 here, and it brings you up a list here, we're going to pick MH1. The design grade is 1009.28, but since we put in the 1005 or whichever one I just punched in there, it's going to give me a cutter feel to that. So right now we're at 1017 or 1017.50 or so, 60. and we got a cut of 12.50. So that is going down to the 1005, not the 1928. If you want to go back to your regular design grade, you just turn that off. Now we've got a cut of 840. That's our regular design invert out grade there for our manhole. That can be a handy feature, I guess, if you're just if you got a bunch of line work, say it's 2D and you don't have any actual grades on it. You can stake stuff out in 2D, but you can also assign grades to it. This next one here, reference line. So that one kind of looks like this right here. Let's just say we're going to pick an actual, we'll pick our line here. And it brings up a little small menu right here. That's basically your stationing and your offset. So we're going to leave those zeros for right now. And I'm going to pick this CP demo point right here. So what that is going to do, it's going to basically, it's going to give me stakeout values with respect to this alignment of that line right there, this brown one right here. So if we wanted to walk to that point and basically get, it's not really referenced north, I guess, up and down, left, right, north, south, east, west. So your stakeout values here are going to be in reference to your actual line here. So if we actually walked over to it, you can see how the values change there. So it's not really giving you your, I guess your rectangular values there with respect to the north axis. It's doing it with respect to that line. If we do, let's say reference line, we'll pick another one, do that one there, check him. So now we got the same thing. So let's go into flip. I don't think it flips it in here, but you can, the flip position. So if you're just staking out an actual regular line, so we won't do it in that, inside that actual reference line routine, but if you are doing, we'll get out of this, you can actually flip it here. So you got your checkered flag down here now, green flag down here, so you can see those flip-flop. You can also do this too, but so your station and offset values here, that is, if you want to do an offset, you can say 10 feet. So it's going to take it, it's going to shift it over from that line that I picked over to the right 10 feet. So let's go on to this next one here. Flip. So we'll say flip. We'll get out of this reference line routine. We're going to X. So we're just going back to regular stakeout now. It's still got that point selected. If we go, let's just pick a line here real quick for your building outline. So right now we're at a negative 3.28 feet. So we're 3 feet off our building alignment there. If we do, that's a bad one because that's a closed loop all the way around the building. Let's pick a different line here. One of these actual hatch lines. Not something you'd really stake out, but it does show what the flip routine actually does. So right now we've got picked, it's actually just a hatch line, but let's pick this manhole line. There we go. Something that actually might make sense. So it's got our checkered flag down here, it's got a green flag up here. When you do your toolbox and you hit flip, it'll flip-flop those. So now we're starting down here. Our stationing is 80.95. That's how far up, basically up station from this start point we are. And our right is 28.06. So obviously that's our position. If we do the flip again, all that's going to change. It's going to give us our station from up here down the line that way, and now we got a negative offset because we're left of the line. So that's flip. Station, this is a pretty cool function here. I like this. Not something you do a lot, but this is useful for, say, a lot of times you may have a CAD file and it may have like a modular block wall or an MSC wall or something with a specific stationing reference to it from the design engineer. You may not have an XML file or a centerline file specifically attached to your or imported in as a reference. So here's kind of, I don't really have a wall on this one, but I'll show you how that works though. So if you go into Toolbox and you do station, this allows you, let's just say you got an MSC wall, or not everybody knows what one of those is, but we'll say like one of those modular block walls. It starts at station, you know, 1000 or 10+00 on the actual shop drawings. So now whatever we pick, I know I kind of keep going back to these hatch lines just because it's close to me, but again, we'll just go ahead and do that so it'll show you. So this info bar up here, right now, when you pick a line, it starts with the green flag right here. Your stationing is basically starting at 0.00. Your offset, of course, is 6.25. That's how far right you are. But if you have some line, such as a wall, like I was saying, that starts at a specific station, I've already got this set up here. You can tap and hold on here on page 2. What I did is I went in here and you can choose these different boxes here. So this one's for stationing. So I set it up for stationing. This is my offset. That's just basically my layer. So if we go to page 2 here, so now it's basically telling me that I'm at station 10+12. I got the same offset. So this allows you to basically attach a specific stationing for an alignment to whatever you're doing. So, and that's anything I pick. Right now it's showing me at 10+12. That's because I'm basically 12.29 feet from the start position. If I pick another line, my values change because it's holding that 1000 at the beginning of the line. So I like that. It's useful if you got walls or really anything with stationing attached to it, and you say, well, that's great, I got a line, but I can't really get on station with how the design engineer has it stationed. Well, that allows you to do that. I like that a lot. It's pretty cool. If you want to get rid of it, you can just go back to station and you can say 0. You put it back on 0. Now it's going to be the same as the first page here. 12.56 from the beginning. Second page, same thing. Going into this divide and offset, I know we've shown a few videos with that as well. That's a pretty handy tool here. So here's divide and offset. Whatever you pick for your stakeout, I know I'm picking these hatch lines, doesn't make a ton of sense, but it's all, I'm just kind of trying to show you the routines for what all this stuff does here, digging into it so you guys can get more value out of your investment here. So I'm just going to use these for simplicity again. So whatever line you pick, it's going to show you when you're using that divide and offset basically how long it is. It's going to give you a snapshot of how long that line is. If I pick that one, I know it's 197.14. I pick that one, I know it's 209.18. If you zoom out, it shows you start, end. Obviously there are different lengths because the hatch lines are different lengths. If this is same thing with any line, whatever you pick basically. Even this goofy leader here, you can pick that. But so here's the deal. These are segments. If you want to bust up a line into a specific amount of segments and prorate them, you can do that. So if you wanted this line, even though it's 209.18, say you want to put it into 7 equal segments, that's what that's for. If you put that at 7, you got 7 equal segments at 29.88. You may see these change of fuzz. If you do 29.88 times 7, it may not equal exactly. That's just due to rounding. The values are correct, but it's just got these decimals run out to the 100th place. If you don't want them in, if you want it by station, say you want to stake this every 10 feet, you can tap in here and you can say I want to put a point every 10 feet. It's going to generate a point every 10 feet starting from the beginning. You may see an oddball one up here at the end. That's just because it'll do 10 from the beginning and then it'll It just happens to work out pretty good due to the rounding, I guess. But that's, if you see a couple that are close there, that's just because you do let's do 9 feet. There you go. So if you do 9 feet, it'll start from the beginning, run them up at intervals of 9 feet, and then your last one's going to be a little bit short to finish it off. So that's a handy tool. You can use that really with lines, with arcs. Definitely handy for arcs because they're a little bit more challenging, I guess, to get your stationing. But also in this menu, you can do, so you can say offset. You got your flip-flop button here, so it's starting down here right now. If you flip it, it starts up here at the top, goes that way. If you want to do an offset, let's space these out a little bit more so we can see 25 feet. If you want to offset these lines, which you usually probably do, you can see that changes a little bit. It's going to hold your stationing. Now these bottom 2 rows basically go for your, this first one here is your horizontal offset. You can see it's going 90 degrees off your line. This one right here is up and down basically, so it's a vertical. So if you wanted to go 4 foot over to the right, you can say 4 foot. If you want to go up, and again, these are on 3D, they're on the correct height, so if you change your height to say 10 foot higher, I don't know why you do that, but you can see them actually run up 10 feet higher. Get this thing squared back up with our north arrow, our crosshairs. So yeah, that's a handy tool. Let's see. This basically creates some at your corners there. If you wanted to erase them, you can do that. You can also give them a code here too. So here's the deal with the codes. We picked that line which is on SP-building. If I hit this green check, it's going to store all those points on the SP-building. If you want to give them specific codes, you can. Toolbox, add one, punch it in. I'm not going to do that right now. If you want to change this or just get out of it, hit your red X. If you want to check it, you can actually save those as a stakeout list. So that's a very, very, very handy tool specifically for staking out curb or really anything. Your buildings, if you wanted to stake it, if you had a really, really long building, 1,500 foot long, you can say I want to stake it every 50 foot. You can just pick that line, do it at 50 foot. Elevation offset. So that's basically exactly like it shows. If you pick a line, right now you got your station from your start. Turn my automatic centering back on. So we're at 6.12, we're right 1 foot, as you can see. 105, 105, we've got a fill of 187. If we change our elevation offset, it actually gives you elevation and you can do lines. So elevation's the second one, alignment's the top one there. So we've got a fill 205 right now, so obviously if I add 5 feet to it, I'm going to have a fill of 7. So that's how that works. Let's see. Elevation offset, connect points. I like this one a lot here too. We'll go into connect points. So let's just do, since I got these 2 turned on, we'll just pick these 2. These can be any 2. So as soon as you pick these 2 points, it's going to generate a 3D polyline from one point to the other. So I got 1009, 28, 1009. If I green check this, it draws a line. It's going to instantly tell me my station from starting there at my green checker or my green flag and my offset. So it's also going to give you a cut fill to that 3D line too. So if that thing's running up at a 5% or 6% or whatever it is, as you walk up and down the alignment of this thing, it's going to give you your station, your offset, and it's going to give you a cut or fill. You can use that a ton of times for. I would use that a lot for like as-built stuff. If you guys have put in some utilities on the ground, you did an as-built of it. Very handy tool there. Select the line. You can kind of stake it back out to make sure that you don't have to that you're not going to strike the utilities. But yeah, so that is that. If you want to delete it, speaking of stakeout, if you don't want to stake that out anymore, you can just unselect it. That draws a line there. If you don't want that line there, toolbox, delete it, check it. You cannot delete reference things, so this has all been imported into a DXF. So if you're worried about your guys doing delete on any of your line work or your reference points, you can't really you can't do that. So that's handy. You ain't got to worry about that. Create arc. So here's create arc. Right now it pops up with a radius there. So if I'm going to turn on some actual points here. We'll go into our layers manager, and I'm just going to turn on my SP-building points here real quick. And so it says select points for arc. Everybody knows if you pick 3 points, it's going to generate basically a simple arc. So let's do that first. If we pick just any point, that point, pick a second point, and we'll pick a third point. Now when I pick this third point, it's going to generate that radius, or basically that arc. So we got that one, that one, that one. If we green check it, and there we are. So it makes one between those three. That's my starting station right there. So I'm kind of over here. It says that I'm at station 44. That's along that arc, and I am right 13.50. I've got a cutter fill of 213, so that is an actual 3D arc. So that can be pretty handy too if you got I don't know, a driveway or something that's kind of horizontally got an arc, but it's also got some vertical geometry change to it. You can pick those 3 points and it'll generate a pretty clean profile between those three. So here's the other thing. Let's delete that for right now, and let's do this. So we're going to go back into create arc. Now if you pick 2 points, any two, I'm picking these on the building, which you can use these for any, but if you pick 2 points and pick this one here, you can change your radius. So this is just a goofy 18.71. I don't know why that came up. Maybe that's the radius of the 3 that I last chose, but you can choose an actual radius, say 25, and it'll give you a 25-foot radius through those points, and you can flip-flop and choose which arc you want. So, you know, if you're kind of faced with a challenging event in the field and you only got 2 points and you know the radius, but you need to lay it out, well, you can pick those two, enter it in, and it'll pop it right on there. So 25, if I change this to say 400, it's going to look a lot more flattened. See, it almost looks like a straight line there. If I say 200, a little bit more. So you get the point. You can choose which side you want to do. So that's a pretty handy tool there. Create point and line. This is also a killer one. So we'll just choose this building corner right here, just for simplicity again. So when I pick that point, and again, there's lots and lots of tools in here. Even when you pick this toolbox and you pick a tool, it brings you up other features here that you can utilize for your field work. So I picked that building corner point. It's going to default to due north. That's just your azimuth there. So obviously 0. This is going to be a slope distance of 8 feet. If you want to do a horizontal distance, right there you can see you got an orange line. It flattens it out. So this allows you to just do simple COGO in the stakeout menu. So let's just say we want to run something just for the heck of it. We'll say 235 degrees. That way it's going to spit it over here in the that way. So 235 degrees, it's going to go 8 foot out. If we want to do a percent from that point, we'll just say 2%. I guess speaking of that, so if you want to do a +2 or -2, don't really worry about doing this negative in here. It's not going to allow you to do that. That's going to be done right here. So you got uphill, downhill. If you want to do 8 foot at 2% uphill, do it uphill. You want to do downhill, hit downhill. So you can flip that. So an important thing here, this is going to be 8 foot horizontally, linear, basically, you know, linear feet. It's not going to be slope distance. So when you hit this green check, the distance between those 2 points horizontally is going to be 8 feet. If you want to run this thing at if you want to run this line out 8 foot on slope distance, it'll still be a 2% line, but your line's only going to be it's going to be 8 foot slope distance. So pretty handy tool though, definitely. So just to give you a quick show of that, checks. That's a really freaking short line, so it's not going to be enough to show the difference there. 2%. Maybe if I made it steeper there, it'd probably show you what I was talking about. Delete those. Check. Let's go back into Stakeout here. And again, even if you do create that point, you can still select that line and you can do divide and offset on it, and you can combine these different routines in here. So a new point, obviously, if you do new point, if you actually want to put in your coordinate values, you can. If you want to make a control point, you can. If you want to change your code, you can. If you pick a point here, it's going to give you the values there for that point. Edit point, you're not going to really be able to edit any of your reference stuff. You can see me tapping the screen here. These things kind of come with the DXF file. So if you measure points or you as-built points, if you basically generate points your own inside your job, you can edit those. But any of these points that are on this line work here, you cannot edit them. So you may find it necessary, if you do want to actually change a point, you can do you can tap on it, say new point, and you can check it. Now you can go in the toolbox, edit point. You can pick that point. You can edit the elevation, change the values, whatever you want to do. And you can say check. So that's most of it. Auto point selection, another handy tool if you got a bunch of stakeout to do. So the first thing you want to do is hit on, so it's actually in a automatic. So you got your selection method. Next from list, that's if you actually make a list. Nearest, that's pretty handy if you got I don't know, a whole string of center line points or whatever you need to stake out. So we'll just do nearest. 358-2. Say measure, accept. 358-1, measure. Now you can also tap and hold on these as well and change these. So if you're in stakeout and you just want, say, none and freeze, there's your freeze. So if you're doing stakeout, freeze it. It freezes all your stuff. As you move your pole, it'll hold those values from wherever it was. Unfreeze it, it goes back live with all your values there. One other thing I did want to show you on stakeout. So let's just say let's pick a line here. So let's pick a line right here. If you're in stakeout, you pick a line, it's going to have your station, your offset, your cut fill. If you hit put this back on. I like kind of having this thing code and measure, depending on what you're doing. Another handy tool, you can customize this. So if you hit measure, it's gonna store a point here. It says you're basically off your tolerance because I'm not actually on the line, I'm not on grade. But when you do that, here's the deal about that, something I like. If you go into your points list, we're going to turn everything off except for the points that we are collecting or generating. So you got northing, easting elevation. Let's go over here to the right side. Stakeout line, so that's that point I just did there, 413.1. That's going to be my station, and that's going to be my offset value there for that line. Pretty handy feature. These are all crappy because I got a terrible position right here in the front yard under a massive oak tree. Got your cut fill right there as well. You can spit all this stuff out in a report, which is very handy through the reports tool. Anyhow, that's a little bit about Stakeout and using the tools inside the toolbox. Again, we want you guys to get as much as you can out of this stuff. I know a lot of times you're just doing Stakeout for a line or a point, which is pretty simple, but I just wanted to kind of go through some stuff here. Some of the customization you can do through the Stakeout menu. Hope that helps. Thanks.